It is Aaron Sands, and welcome to King Talk Season 3. Let's get smarter.
What's up, world? This is the Chief Mally Mal, long live the Chief, and you're tuned in to King Talk with Mr. Aaron Sands. Don't go nowhere, baby.
King Talk, King Talk. Yeah, that's me. What up? It's your man, Aaron Sands, and we are back yet again, right before the new year. You thought I was going to leave you without no New Year special, no New Year episode, no New Year review. Yeah, I might have missed you on Christmas, but we are back. You already know what it is. It's Fridays and it's King Talk. I want to welcome everyone back to King Talk. This is the second half of the season. And first of all, first things first, it's really great to be back. I went through a lot, especially after Thanksgiving, physically, and mentally. I wanted to make sure I was in the right space. We could get into that, but also we're also going to get into is what we miss. What's going on? Tory's guilty of shooting Meg. Brittney Griner is out. You know what I'm saying? The year is almost over. Like, it's going crazy. It's going 2022 crazy. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get into all of that and also look back in a year that was 2022 and any predictions for 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. So personally, it's been a little rough, you know what I'm saying? I was supposed to originally come back on the 9th. That was like about 3-4 weeks ago, which is a little crazy. But I lost my voice, you know? And when it comes down to it, you can't really do the pods. You can't really do what we do what I was doing on a weekly basis and do what a lot of other great podcasters are doing on a weekly or even daily basis without no voice. Without no voice. So when I came back from North Carolina, I wasn't feeling good at all. On top of that, my work schedule, you know, in between like when I'm doing here and what I do outside of the pods, that was picking up pretty heavily during the holiday season. So between me physically being unable to get on the mic and schedule wise not being able to get on the mic, and honestly mentally I was doing way too much. And the last thing you want to do when you're doing way too much is burn out. You know, you don't want to burn out. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're working way too hard and then you don't have really the energy to do shit else. And that's where I was at, honestly. I was putting out episodes every week. I was killing shit at work, you know, planning stuff that's outside of, you know, the pod and everything like that. And in the midst of that, like, I got overwhelmed. So luckily for me, this week I had some time off, you know, getting ready to close out for the rest of the year. It gave me more time to put more attention on everything that's outside of my profession. I've sat there and focused more on where I want to take the pod, how I want my studio build to be built out, you know, things like that. Meanwhile, I was doing all of this, barely talking and just using Siri to talk for me, which is fine in a conversational sense, but not when you're putting out a podcast that's really putting out a top 5 podcast that's out here. You know what I'm saying? Looking back at that was a pretty rough time to go through. But one thing I wanted to make a promise of is not to leave you guys in 2020, not to have you come into 2023 and not drop one last episode for the year. And that's what we're doing right here. We're getting into it. It's King Talk, baby. We are back. Also, going forward, for the final 10 episodes, right? I think 10 or 11 episodes are at. We got left for the season. We just going right back to the schedule. Every week there's a new episode. So don't miss it. Stay tuned and enjoy. Like, share, and subscribe on all the streaming platforms. You know what I'm saying? Good Pods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, share, and subscribe with us. All right. Getting past that and getting into what we missed. All right. I'm not gonna hold you. Coming back from break was gonna get kind of crazy because there's a lot that I wanted to get into between the old Tory Lanez being found guilty, Brittney Griner coming back. Was the trade worth it? Let's get into that real quick. Let's get down into that. Those two topics at best. First things first. You saw what happened. You seen the trial. You seen how everything play out, right? Talking about the Tory Lanez case. And yeah, apparently he was found guilty, of all 3 charges. You know what I'm saying? At first, when I looked at it, I was like, all right, well, if he gets found guilty of, if anything he'll be found guilty of is the fact that he had the gun on him and he let it off. You know what I'm saying? You can't just be letting off firearms everywhere, especially if you're not from here. You would have thought, right, since, you've been here since 2009, 2010, you know what I'm saying? You would have figured out your status, your residential status here in the country. Apparently, you was out here getting money, fucking bitches, having the time of your life, doing what you love to do. You completely forget that, hey, you're not a citizen from here. So if you doing the shit that we do out here, but you from up north, and you get caught, yeah, you getting sent back up north. You understand? So coming into it, it was coming into the trial, everybody was like, okay, this should be pretty open and shut, because the evidence was there. Evidence wasn't really as strong as it is. Meg was caught lying on a few different occasions, especially on that Gayle King interview. So when you're looking at it like that, there's a good chance that she'll be coming in on some bullshit. But she came in, she did what a victim does. She goes in and she started crying on the stand, talking about, hey, I'm a victim. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it came down to. So getting into that, I'm watching the case and everything like that. I'm watching the witnesses get up there and prosecution asking questions, and you can see how the prosecution was, in a sense, weak in certain areas. You know what I'm saying? And then Kelsey got on the stand and basically torpedoed the whole prosecution's case. She was supposed to go up there and be like, hey, I saw him do that shit. I saw him fire the gun. You know what I'm saying? Instead, she ended up pleading the fifth throughout most of the case, which helps story people out because it's like, hey, if she pleading the fifth, chances are, she didn't say he didn't do it, but now is, it sows doubt. And the defense, they don't got to prove whether or not he didn't do it or anything like that. You just got to have enough doubt for 12 people to get into a room and be like, wait, I'm kind of confused about this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might need a minute, So looking back at that, as time went on, you start to see like, all right, Meg's case kind of falling apart. There's really no evidence. And now you got a lot of the lawyers that follow this telling people like, hey, listen, either Tory's going to get caught up with none of the charges or all of the charges, because the way the charges are set up, it's like, well, if you were able to do this, you should be able to do that. And if you're able to do B, then you're able to do C. You understand? So, jury's in deliberation. Everybody's like, yo, Tory's got like about a good 75-80% chance of like beating this case and then, getting up out of here, being a free man. Fortunately, people don't think about the other 25%, which is pretty problematic because now, your man's facing like 22 years in prison. And even if he gets less than that, which I'm gonna be honest with you, he's probably going to face, he's probably going to get no more than like 9 years. But then after that, you getting deported, you know? So it's a lot going on. Meg Stallion and like her team with Rock Nation want to sue a lot of the independent media outlets for covering the story and painting her in a bad light. But it looks bad because a lot of these independent media news sources are like myself, African American. You know what I'm saying? These are black reporters. And I'm like, it's one way you can't say you support the culture if you're gonna tear down the media side of that. You understand? So you gotta take the good with the bad when it comes to it. So hopefully, you know, they could work that out on that end. Tory's, of course, he's gonna appeal, but then the deportation situation is also a big thing as well. So, you know, prayers up for him and his family. I know his dad was going through it. You know, you hate to see your son go through, you know, those trials and tribulations, but at the same time, had this been much easier if he was a citizen, I mean, yeah, he would have still served time, but it would have been easier to manage rather than, you know, having to deal with this and then now deal with getting deported. So that's the tough part. You know, hopefully he probably come with people who ask like, hey, is a career done? You know? And for me, I'm like, I feel like his career is going to be like on a long ass pause. It might very well be done, to be fair. Only way I can see it not being done is if when he get out and he gets deported, he start doing like the 6ix9ine shit and go international. You know what I'm saying? Like go to like to the European markets and things like that, and then see where it goes. You know what I'm saying? But even then, that's still a bit of a stretch. So we'll wait and see. Another thing that happened while I was away and trying to figure my life out, Brittney Griner ended up getting released from prison. Now, would you say if it was a people ask, well, hey, what do you think about the trade? Was it a good trade? Was it a bad trade? Things like that. And to be fair, first things first, I want to just be glad. I want to say I'm just glad that she's home, that she's safe, she's with her family and loved ones, and that she's looking to get back into basketball sometime soon. And I'm a fan for all of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? You really need to, like, I'm a fan of people like getting their freedom and being able to see their loved ones for the holidays, being able to spend time, things like that. Fan of all of that. Having said that, I do believe we could have made a better trade. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do believe we could have made that better trade. We could have made a better trade to, you know, put that together, because you're trading one of the most dangerous arms dealers in the world for a basketball player because of social media reach. Or no, I don't want to say social media reach, but because of social media pressure. That's more like it. Because of social media pressure. And by you moving in that sense, I feel like I highly disagree. I highly disagree with countries making decisions based off social media pressure. You understand? You have Marines there that could have been freed. You probably could have went about it another way. Granted, like, to be fair, like, she did break the law in that country. When you break the law in certain countries, you got to do the time in those countries. You got to go through the trial process, just like if people break the law here and they're not from here. They got to do the same laws here. They got to go through the same process. And if you're found guilty, you got to serve the same time, just like people that come here to visit and they break laws, you know, and they get extradited back to their country. Unfortunately, doing that in Russia, especially when, you know, tensions between both countries are kind of, you know, I'm be honest with you, they haven't been in the best place in decades, and it's only getting worse nowadays, especially with the whole situation with Ukraine and us assisting Ukraine. So to deal with all of that, and then on top of that, you got to deal now with, you know, the whole Brittney Griner situation, Russia's like, yo, listen, yeah, we getting our ass kicked by Ukraine, but this seems kind of interesting. So they're going to kind of play it. They got kind of, in a sense, they got the ball in their court, really, because they could sit there and make those demands like, all right, well, you want her? I bet. We could get greedy, or we could be sensible about this. Let's be sensible, and you'll trade us one of my closest confidants in order for Brittney Griner to return to America. You know? And now you got that decision to make. Do you feel like it's worth the decision to be like, hey, let's free her, let's go get her back, and in exchange we'll just send the merchant of death back to them? You know what I'm saying? Me personally, I feel like it could have went a better way. We could have did, you know what I'm saying? You could have made a different move. But that would have been the first look on my list. You know what I'm saying? That would have been the first move on my list. So, I mean, granted, glad she's home, glad she's here, glad she's with family. But there's so many other ways you could have circumvented that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many things you could have done. So, that's just crazy. But, that's so. So, you already know what it is. I just found out, it was breaking news that just came as we were recording. This came across my feed. There's actually a new, once again, I gotta tell people be safe because there's a new variant of COVID out here, that XBB. And actually, that strain has been growing pretty crazily in the Northeast. You know, especially in this country. It's a new strain that came out. The number in China has been growing in the thousands. So let me see if I can look this up real quick. I had that on my timeline. I was going to see if I get another source. King Talk fact check real quick before I get into it. See, that's crazy. I figured it. Damn, that's crazy. All right. So, according to the Hill, COVID variant XBB.1.1.5 now accounts for 40% of cases in the US right now. So, listen. I know everybody want to get together for New Year's. New Year's Eve is tomorrow. We got the parties turning up. You got, people wanting to get together with loved ones. Some people going to church and everything. All for it. All I can say, guys, please be safe. I cannot stress that enough. Please be safe. You had RSV going on. I lost my voice, and making my moves and everything like that. So, yeah, please be safe out here. It's not a game. It's not a joke. You only get one. So, take care of yours. You feel me? So, and finally, we're going to get into the 2022 year in review. Now, here's the thing. Going into the year in review, I'm going to talk about the top topics, but, at the same time, I want to get into a more in-depth view of 2022. And, I can't do that alone. I'm definitely going to have to do that with my bros. And actually, I can say this tonight. I'm recording with the bros, Ken and Gentlemen, Tribal Chief Mally Mal, and the Star Roddy Rod. Premier Boys are back. You thought that, King Talk was going to be one thing, like we're just back and we're back every week. Yeah, but I ain't coming back alone. Premier Boys is back, and we're coming back on the 4th of January. So, I believe one of the topics we're talking about for the start of season 3 is a 2022 year in review. But I want to kind of get a quick recap of the year in review, and we're going to close out for the show for today, and then we'll get back at it next week. So, one of the things I can't really forget during this whole time and everything, when it comes down to the end of this year, is that fucking slap, bro. Like, seriously? Like, I don't know. I think that might be the picture for, if I didn't use it for the picture yet, this year. That might be the picture for this situation. 2022 year in review. Picture of Chris Rock getting smacked up, just like that. You know what I'm saying? So, now the thing with this is, I mean, granted, yeah, Will Carter's hit and everything for that, and he came out with a movie this year, but I wasn't too sure of how that went. I'll probably have to look that up after this. But Chris Rock actually is coming out, I think, in the coming weeks. I think either the coming weeks or right before Oscar season. He's coming out with a Netflix special, and in that special, that's where he's going to talk about the slap in its full entirety. Because he was saying, like, listen, if he's going to talk about the slap, he's going to have to get a big bag for it. And Netflix came through, and you already know, Netflix usually comes through with a big bag. So, yeah, you know, they're going to want to know what happened, so they're going to drop some bread on it, and sure enough, he's talking about it. And I think he had to tour with Dave Chappelle and Kevin Hart earlier this year. I think it was either one of those two or both that was on tour this year. But yeah, man, I can't wait for that special to come out. Hopefully, you know, he sit there and bring it like he always do and go from there. Because listen, you couldn't pay me to sit there and just hold that real quick and then go host. Like, I don't know. I mean, that makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? It makes, you know, it makes us a little bit different. You know, that's why he's like on the stages and I'm behind the mic and I'm good with that. So, because ain't no fucking way. So, anyway, between that happening and then the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial happening as well, you know, it really put I think the whole not Amber Heard, my apologies, Johnny Depp being found not guilty, that whole situation put a hole in belief all women, because I think people came into it, they would believe in Amber Heard because, you know, you see Johnny Depp with all this power and stuff, and you know, rich people, they tend to do weird shit. You know what I'm saying? They tend to do weird shit. So they figure like, all right, well, this might be an easy case for her. But as time went on, as the trial went on, and all those lies starting to get, you know, pushed, you know, get exposed, the truth starts to get exposed, you found out, like, hey, one, Amber Heard's lying like a motherfucker, and two, you know, can you really believe all women? You know, I don't think you could. You gotta look at the facts. You can't just openly, blindly be like, oh, hey, believe all ladies because they're ladies, and you gotta give them grace. Yes, we gotta give them grace. But you can't go into a situation talking about we're just going to believe just off the strength of belief. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I could believe Santa Claus exists. Santa Claus. I could believe Santa Claus exists. Doesn't make him real. You feel me? So just because you say something doesn't make it true. You got to have facts. You got to have the, you know, the actual truth of what happened. You know? People can make anything up to what they want to do. Truth that prevails all the time, and I think she learned that during this. The crazy thing about the whole Amber Heard situation is that to this day, you still have supporters be like, well, even though she lied, she still, bro, she lied. Like, you know, you can't really reason with that type of shit. So you really gotta keep that in mind as you're on your travels. Honestly, you really, really do. What else happened this year? Akron Elementary was lit though. I ain't gonna hold you. Like that's kind of my show right now. They did a lot this year, I will say. Yeah, you can never pay me. Yeah, you can never pay me to sit there and, you know, get slapped like that in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Especially at the Oscars. You gotta understand, like, people with families there and everything like that, you know? Shit is crazy. Kanye ended up about to lose $200K a month to Kim K for the whole child support situation. You know, that's gonna be a whole thing. They ended up getting divorced and she started dating Saturday Night Live cast members and shit. So that was a crazy part of 2022 as well. But yeah, small part of 2022 and everything like that, you know, especially with the entertainment situation. Lost a lot of people this year. And one of the people we lost was the Queen, you know what I'm saying? The Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. She ended up passing away at, I think, 95, 96? Around about 96, give or take. And yeah, it was a tough loss to Europe. That was a whole thing for like about a month, man. It was crazy. But at the same time, you know, you had King Richard up there trying to having to figure things out now because automatically he gets the throne, you know. But with him, I don't know. So for me personally, something's weird about him. Like, I feel like he was on that flight, like with Epstein and everything like that. I believe he might have been. They didn't release the list. They have the list after they call her bestie Ghislaine Maxwell, which also happened this year too. They ended up finding her guilty, but they never released the list of who was on those planes. But I feel like King Richard was on those planes because there's a lot of powerful names that was on that list. And if he was next up, that's pretty powerful. So that's something to really think about. But yeah, it's unfortunate. 2022, all in a whole, wasn't a crazy year for the most part. But yeah, glad it's over. Glad it's, you know, we're getting past everything that happened in 2022. We're looking at, you know, what's next, you know. And honestly, if anybody was to ask what's next for the podcast, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're getting new guests and everything. Definitely doing a lot more crossovers. We're coming back weekly, and we're going to do all of it in 10 episodes. So we're doing it all in 10 episodes. And one of the most important things about this whole experience is you guys. You guys, in the past year, I've seen number one a few times, honestly. And I got you guys to thank for that. If it wasn't for y'all, then, you know, I probably wouldn't even be doing this shit, to be honest with you. So I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for turning up with me. Can't wait for you guys to turn up with us as a team when the Premier Boys podcast come back on the 4th of the month. And we're back, I believe, on the 6th, and every week after that, going for King Talk. But until then, it's your man Aaron Sands. You can follow me at Aaron Sands Premier. Link in the description. You can follow me on Good Pods at King Talk Sands. Link in the description. You could also follow me on Twitter, King Talk Sands. Link in the description. As I said before, Premier Boys Podcast back on the 4th, recording tonight. I can't wait. Shout out to the bros. And yeah, also check out all of the other programs that's on the Premier Podverse Network. That's Ken and Gentleman's Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast. I believe he dropped a new episode this past week, so that's going to be crazy. Conversation about music, hopefully coming back soon. Can't wait. The Bridge, hopefully dropping sometime soon. We'll get an update on that, hopefully on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, you already know what it is. It's your man Aaron Sands, and if it's Fridays, then yeah, it's King Talk. Take care.
This the Star Roddy Rod, and you are now listening to King Talk.
What's up, everybody? This is your boy Ken, aka Mr. Gentleman, your host of Mr. Gentleman Lifestyle Podcast, and 1/4 of the Premier Boy Podcast. And you are now listening to my brother Aaron King Talk Sands show, King Talk with Aaron Sands. Yeah!